Hello again everyone, welcome to this Empire Review. I'm your resident tech and gaming guy Dave, and this time around we are looking at the hotly anticipated high seas adventure from Microsoft Studios and Rare, The Sea of Thieves. There is always some risk in doing something new. You've got no idea if it's going to work and how it's going to be received. And as there is very little in the way of genuinely new intellectual property released these days, you also end up dealing with the hype monster around the game as an extra. This is the environment that Sea of Thieves has found itself being released into. This new MMO-inspired title from Rare and Microsoft Studios is available now on the Xbox One and Windows 10 PCs. And of course, if you happen to get a digital code for this game, you get it on both platforms thanks to Microsoft's Xbox Play Anywhere feature. So, in a nutshell, you are a pirate adventurer on the titular Sea of Thieves. You can pilot a little fast ship or a bigger, better armed but slower ship around the many islands and atolls that make up this particular sea, picking up quests from outposts to get plunder and chests loaded with treasure which you can hand in to the NPCs and go outfit your pirate with suitably swaggish clothing. Focus is given to the online nature of this game and the shared world of the sea. You are almost certain to encounter other players as you make your way around. And if you were hoping for or expecting an offline component to this game, you will be disappointed. Now when you do bump into somebody else, you can either chill out and just go about your way, or you can go all buccaneer on them and have an attempt to sink their boat, kill their crew and plunder the booty that they have acquired. This is where the Sea of Thieves is at its best in my opinion. When you're on the ship, if you're playing with others, each player will find their niche on the boat. One will navigate, one will pilot, one will manage the sails, and one will look out and ring the bell from the crow's nest if there's land or an approaching ship on the horizon. When you get into a fight, well, things change quite quickly. You need to be mindful of your cannons, boarding the opposing boat, taking on water yourselves and losing your loot. It's a great test of your crew's ability to work together. There's no real damage to death or having your ship sunk, but if you've not been to an outpost to turn in your plunder for a while, then you could find yourself losing out on the loot that you've spent the evening acquiring. Dropping off loot frequently is the key message that I would give you here. Graphically, the game is very approachable. Everything is cartoony, stylized and caricatured. You can enjoy doing some hilarious and silly things like firing your character out of cannons onto other ships or onto islands. If one of your team is annoying, you can also jam them in the ship's brig. Now, as long as you're playing with others, you will be getting the most out of this game. It's been designed this way, and you can really tell that. If you decide to play solo, and I've tried it, it does become something of a travel, fight, dig up chest, travel type grind. There's very little incentive to keep playing unless you're determined not to be social. Obviously there's no offline play mode either, so if you were hoping to play this one without an internet connection, as I mentioned, you will most definitely be disappointed. Social interaction on the game works in a series of ways. You have direct voice or emotes or a series of quick chat messages that you can relay to get your point across quite quickly. Also, if you're feeling musical, you can fire up a hurdy-gurdy or accordion, and if your mates decide they want in on it, you'll all play the same song, which is kind of a nice feature. It makes those quiet moments a little more special, and it's all down to playing with others. Now, one thing that I found difficult to get to grips with was just how everything works in this game. There's very little in the way of tutorials, so I spent some time just wandering aimlessly in this game for the first hour or so. And if you're not careful, you can end up leaving port without taking on any missions. As long as someone in the party has a mission though, you'll be able to participate and get the rewards. And if you're playing with someone who's a considerably higher level than you as well, it's nice that enemies are scaled so that you can be part of the fun without getting smashed every time you look at a baddie. Still, Rare has made certain that it is known that this is a social game, designed to be played with others. If you do, so far I've found people who know more than me are happy to share what they know. I can't speak for the future, but this has been a good start. What I am concerned about is that if you look beyond the social aspect of this game, it doesn't have a huge amount of depth, plot, or anything beyond the ability for you to engage in piracy with your mates on the open sea in a world teeming with other pirates. but then that doesn't sound like a terrible thing either. Lastly, I've noticed that the loot seems to be pretty steeply priced. After an evening of plundering the intro missions, I didn't even have enough to upgrade one piece of gear. So far as I can tell, the endgame content will take a long time to get to. Maybe that's not true and I've simply not discovered how to obtain these items without grinding, but that's my experience of the game so far. Again, it's early days here. Also, speaking about loot and prices, I haven't seen a single sign of a microtransaction on this game to date. That is not to say that they will not exist in the future, but at the time of this review they do not, and I believe that anything without microtransactions is for the better, so that's a really good thing to see. I am going to give this game 7.2 out of 10. It is a fun, brave new game which, if you enter into it in the right spirit, which is to say with friends, you can have a great evening of adventuring out on the open seas. But if you're looking for a solo adventure in which you can be a pirate captain extraordinaire, you will be disappointed at the overall experience that this game gives you. Thanks very much for listening. This was Dave.